Hello, everyone. My name is Du Kwang, the Secretariat of the Asian Network of Women's Shelters. And it's my honor today to be the moderator of the ANWS NGOCSW68 Parallel Event, Story of Economic Violence, Telling Real Cases in Asian Shelters, organized by the ANWS and the Garden Hall Foundation. And today we have exciting 7 speakers from 6 organizations in 6 countries across all Asia to share a real case about economic violence in their shelters, what kind of services were provided, and the outcome of the client receiving the services. And for those who are learning about us for the first time, ANWS is a regional alliance of women's shelters in Asia, formed in 2012 to promote cross-learning of capacity building and advocacy in Asia as part of the global network of women's shelters. And the Garden Hall Foundation, founded in 1988, is one of the largest shelter provider in organizations in Taiwan and has served as the Secretariat of ANWS since its inception. And before we begin, a few tips to get a better experience of this event. You can leave your questions in the Q&A section. We are leaving your comments and information in the chats, where we also share some information. And if you need interpretation from English to Chinese or vice versa, you can use the global icon to switch between the language channels. And before I introduce our amazing speakers, let me explain how this event is structured. So the event is divided into 4 main sessions. The first 3 sessions are separated by speakers from different parts of Asia, and the last part is a panel discussion with all the speakers. And each session is divided into 3 parts. First, I will introduce the speakers, then each speaker will have 8 minutes to share, and then followed by me asking 2 speakers a question. And finally, a panel discussion with all the speakers participating and the Q&A session. So that's today's agenda. I know that sounds very complicated, but I'm sure we'll get a lot of today's conversation. So without any further ado, let me introduce the first 2 speakers from the Northeast Asia, Liya Tang from Taiwan and Chisato KITANAKA from Japan. And so Liya is the supervisor of the women's shelter in Taipei, where she actively supports women in the transition to a more stable life. Her work consists of assisting women in rebuilding their lives and providing crucial support in areas such as economic empowerment, medical treatment, and legal assistance. And with a background of social care, Liya has dedicated 7 years to help victims of intimate partner violence. Liya had received the honor of Best Social Worker in 2020 from the Taipei City government and the Best Service Prize for Social Workers from the Ministry of Health and Welfare. And Chisato-san is the president and the co-representative of All Japan's Women's Network, Shelters, a network that galvanizes the efforts of local women's organizations to promote needed change in the Anti-Domestic Violence Prevention Act, and working towards eliminating all forms of violence towards women and children. Chisato-san is also the president of Social Violence Victim Support Hiroshima, a rape crisis center. And Chisato-san is not only an associate professor of the Harassment Consultation Office at Hiroshima University, and she focuses on sociological gender theory and gender-based violence in universities. She's also a social worker on the university campus and deals with harassment, bullying, discrimination, and violence. Okay, so that's the introduction of the first 2 speakers, and I will now give the floor to Liya Tang, who will share her experience from a Taipei City Lanxing shelter run by the Garden Hall Foundation in Taiwan. So take it away, Liya.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Supervisor Liya from Taipei City branch of the Garden of Hope Foundation, and today I will share with you financially empowering victims of domestic violence. So you can take a look at our structure. So Lanxing Shelter, we are an emergency shelter It's a short-term shelter for emergency needs, and we provide shelter for domestic violence and victims from the human trafficking. And also we have medium and long-term shelter, counseling shelter, and after the shelter life, they will be put into another independent living service. And let's take a look at different stages of services for domestic violence victims. So you can see that in Lanka shelters, we have 2 stages for them that focus more on their physical and psychological relief. And also we will try to train their independent living in the next stage. And after that, they will be put into a long-term shelter for them to learn how to live independently economically. And also you can see that there are 4 aspects of domestic violence, like loss of confidence, sense of helpless, difficulty returning to employment, and serious debt. And we realized that economic violence is a very serious type of psychological violence. And this is Xiaoping's story. So Xiaoping, after getting married, she became a victim of financial abuse from her husband. Her husband didn't give her enough money to support her life, and also the household expenses were often not enough. So Xiaoping had to borrow money from her family, original family. So she was very afraid of her husband. And we realized that from Xiaoping's story, there are several aspects of financial empowerment for females. For example, like promoting employment capacity, confidence building, and planning for the future. And also, when we worked with Xiaoping, we had to increase his confidence. For example, we provided her mental support, and we had like group sessions bringing hidden trauma to the service, and we guided Xiaoping to express her emotions, and she could take care of her own feelings. And also we had some workshops and support groups. Like last year, we had this work group that was about the awareness of traumatization. So females, they could empower themselves to realize about themselves and to learn how to express their own feelings in the group. And also we provide interpersonal security, because in the shelter, those females actually have very similar life experiences. So with the support from each other, they can create such a network that can help each other after they leave the shelter to face the difficulties in their lives. And after they leave the shelter, we still provide a lot of activities for them to come back to learn new things and connect with us. So for some employment support groups, we have 2-day courses each year. In the morning, we have 3 hours academic courses, and in the afternoon, we have 3 hours practical training session. And you can see the pictures that we have, like we have mentors who come over and to teach the females how to work in their future workplaces, and we have mock job opportunities through which participants may earn wages. And also for planning their future, when worked with Xiaoping, we continuously asked her what her future life she would like to have. So Xiaoping could prepare for that, and also she could have such a image, a blueprint in her mind. And each month we will discuss with Xiaoping her personal financial management, like how many money she could save every month so that she can have a better control of her life and gaining more confidence. And you can see that we have also an envelope saving tool. We will discuss with the females in our shelters and let them know their budget every month, and they can place the money to be spent each month in the envelopes for the different spending items. So it is a very specific and very visualized money saving tool. And also we will provide them with financial management classes as well. So by doing so, Xiaoping, after joining this financial empowerment program, she gained more confidence, and also she joined many mock job opportunity sessions. So she would realize how it will be in the actual working place. So she had more confidence to challenge herself in the real job settings, and she can kind of plan her own budget and savings each month. And we have some recommendations and challenges for practical training as well. We have to stabilize those traumatic women's mind because they are really traumatic. And we have to increase their confidence and ask them to take more care about themselves. So those women, they can embrace themselves and increase their confidence, in turn helping them gain control over their lives. And it's actually a very long process. So in terms of Xiaoping's cases, it was a 2-year journey for her to step outside of the shelter to find job. So we can see that violence against women can cause the women being lack of confidence, and it's a very long journey for them to regain their confidence. So it's a very short sharing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Liya, for your amazing presentation and detailed information of the services that was provided in the shelters. And so I actually see some questions regarding the slides from today. So at the end of today's session, we'll provide a link to a survey form of today's events, a satisfactory form. And once you complete the form, we will share the link to the slides for you. Okay, so now we have Chisato-san to share how they are supporting victims through a micro finance loans in Japan. And the floor is yours, Chisato-san. And you are muted.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me? Okay, thank you. I'm from Japan. We are a national network of women's shelters. I talk about a microfinance loan in Japan. First of all, wage gap between men and women in Japan is very large. And the poverty is particularly severe among single mother households. 75.2% of single mother households say how to make a living. One reason for this is that many women are on non-regular employment contracts, which do not pay the same wage for work of equal value. This graph shows labor force participation rates for women on the left and for men on the right. Most men are in regular employment in pink area, while women in the blue area have a much larger share of non-regular employment. Thus, they remain at low wages with no promotions. Victims are hesitant to flee from domestic violence because of the fear that they will not be able to make a living. They need most support, especially in the initial stages of starting a new life away from violence. We are a national liaison organization of NGOs with small DV shelters across the country. Currently, 66 organizations are members. In 2007, we launched PMJ Foundation based on Philip Morris's donation of 10 million yen. We provide interest-free loans to victims of domestic violence and sexual violence. Member affiliate can apply for a loan for the women they support. After we started the fund, the government warned us that we need to register as a moneylender. Then we are now registered as a moneylender and operate in compliance with the law. We joined the Moneylenders Association. We have to pay the membership fee. We hired licensed staff, and we display a certificate board in our office and are also inspected by the authorities. I am unexpectedly the president of the moneylender. Start from 10 million yen. Philip Morris and other individuals and companies groups have added donations from 2007 to March 2023. We have loaned money to 645 people for a total of 162.6 million yen, which is $1 million. In 2022, about 255,000 yen was borrowed per person on average, which was used for rent, immediate living expenses, and so on. In Japan, the custom is to have to pay about 3 months' rent when first renting an apartment room. So they need a sum of money to rent an apartment. Even when using the welfare system, it takes some time to apply and get a decision. Sometimes you have to wait for 2 months. Because of economic DV, victims often have no savings. By fleeing from the violence, they cannot pay children's school fees and they are at risk of being expelled from school. So they use the loan for rent, immediate living expenses, cost of hiring a lawyer, abortion expenses and childbirth expenses, and school fees. What is impressive is that many people are willing to pay back little by little. So after 16 years, the fund still has money left over to continue its lending activities. In the past 3 years, we have lent about 8 million yen and received 6.5 million yen in repayment. Last year, we launched another new fund, Micro Empowerment Fund, we call ME Fund, was launched with a grant from Micron Technology Foundation. We run this fund with other NGOs that support young women, women in pregnancy-related struggles, rape crisis centers, and immigrant support groups. Here's a comment who used the PMJ fund. When I came to a new city where I didn't know anyone and had no one to turn to, but by meeting with the DV victim support group, I have the opportunity to challenge myself to start a new life. Through my encounters with them, I was able to change from thinking that I deserved to be beaten up because I was bad to thinking that I deserved to be cared for and to be happy, and that I could start my life over at any age. I am very grateful for the financial support of the PMJ Foundation, as I am too helpless to do this on my own. She borrowed money for living expenses and tuition fee for nursing school. Another survivor say, I am a foreigner in Japan who can't read Japanese. I'm so worried before to live in Japan to raise my son alone. But your team always helped me to support to find me any job recruit which suit me to me. Finally, now I am working as a tour conductor in Japan to continue me and my son's life. I am very thankful to the fund to make my son available to continue studying next year and help him to catch his dream. She borrowed money for her son's school fee. So through these running funds, we recognize the value and need for such funds, as there is not much custom in Japan of making donations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chisato-san, for your detailed information on how you're supporting the victims in Japan through the microfinance loans. So now I will ask one question for you and Liya, and that is, what are some of the challenges you or your organization have faced in providing services to survivors of economic violence? And maybe we can start with Liya.
The challenges we've encountered, for example, like many women in our shelters, they are forced to borrow some loans using their names by their partners, or borrow money from other relatives. So they are in debt, which they don't want to, but they are forced to do so by their partners. So in terms of this situation, it's a very difficult, challenging for us to relieve their lives because they are serious in debt. But now we don't have many legal tools to help them in this regard, because it's difficult to prove that they are forced to borrow those monies. But this is an actual challenging for them. Maybe in the future, we can discuss this issue further in the legal situation.
Okay, thank you, Liya, for your sharing about the huge debt that victims are holding, even though it might be borrowed by the perpetrator and not them. And Chisato-san, can you share about some of the challenges that you see in Japan?
Yeah, although we have a fund, but not everyone can use this because we should prove their ability to pay back in somehow. So that is the major challenge for us.
Is there any institutional efforts that can help tackle the eligibility?
Yeah, for they can't use the fund. We pursue the way to donation, so not lending, but donate them somehow, rooms or money or some clothes, or that is more realistic ways to help them.
I see. And Liya, do you see the microfinance loans program in Japan being applicable in Taiwan?
Well, for Taiwan, I think maybe we can do that as well, but we may encounter the same challenge as well. Currently, we can provide some support for women who would like to create their own business, because we have some like small fund for them to start their own business. But for life expenses, currently we don't have a fund for them for the providing the life expenses. But to prove how they will repay the debt, that's a challenge.
Okay, thank you both for your answers. And that concludes our first session. And now we will turn to our next session with two speakers from Southeast Asia. So we have Socheat from Cambodia and Linnea who's now in Vietnam. So Sochi is currently the Executive Director of Cambodian Women's Crisis Center, a leading NGO advocating for the rights of women and children, as well as gender justice and elimination of all forms of violence against women and children. She has previously held the position of Program Manager at CWCC for more than 12 years. Sochi has experience working with NGOs in Cambodia for more than 14 years and has been volunteering as a Vice Chair of the Board Director of the Cambodian Organization for Children and Development for more than 10 years. And she serves as a steering committee member of the Gender and Development Network and the Asian Network of Women's Shelters. And Linnea is an intern at the Center for Women and Development in Vietnam, which works to empower disadvantaged women in Vietnam. And as part of her bachelor's degree in global development, she's now conducting an in-depth field study exploring the implications of paid menstrual leave for women in Vietnam and exemplifying her dedication to understanding and addressing issues that affect women's lives. Linnea also holds a bachelor degree in political science, a foundation that serves as a complementary backdrop to her current studies. So Sochi will share a story of domestic violence survivor in their shelter. So the floor is yours, Sochi.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. This is Socheat from Cambodian Women Crisis Centers, and it is my pleasure to be a key speaker for this session. So, first of all, I would like to share about CWCC a bit before I get in depth into the real case of economic violence cases. So, Cambodian Women Crisis Centers is a woman-led organization which was founded in 1997 and registered with the Ministry of Interior in 1998. And we have a branch office not only in Phnom Penh but also in other provinces like in Banteay, which is the border between Cambodia and Thailand, in Siem Reap and also in Kampong Thom. So CWCC, we focus on empowering women and girls to claim their rights and to be free from all form of violence. So actually, CWCC, we are working in 3 main programs. First is prevention, which is more on elimination of all form of violence. And second is protection, with more focus on the service provision to the survivor. And the last one is on advocacy. So our target groups or clients is women and girl survivors of domestic violence, sexual abuse, and human trafficking. And our target area, we have Phnom Penh. In Phnom Penh, we have regional office with the shelters. Banteay Meanchey, we have regional office with the shelters. And in Siem Reap, we also have regional office with the shelters. While in Kampong Thom, we have only regional office. We do not have shelters. And in Kampong Speu and Kanda province, we actually work at the grassroots level as a network base. So in sum, CWCC have 4 regional offices with 3 SHAK shelters across the nations, across the Cambodia. And I do not want to mention about the prevention program, but here I would focus more on the protection program, which is more on the civil provision. And this is the interventions that CWCC have worked in order to reach the survivor. So at the grassroots level, at the community level, we actually working with the community-based group, including youth group, women group, and also people organization, disability organization. So we work with these people to build trust between this group with the duty bearer, who are the, we call gender-based violence working group. So we actually build capacity of this group to work together to to build their capacity on gender equality, violence against women, and how to report cases to the service providers. Then all cases that were sent by the community people at the grassroots level to the service provider, and then sent to CWCC for further services. Like for example, we have drop-in center, we have legal service, we have legal counseling, legal representation, we have shelter, we have psychological counseling, vocational skill training, reintegration, and also economic activity support to the survivor. So here is some cases that were referred by the stakeholder to CWTC in 2023. So for domestic violence, we have around 188 cases. So when the survivor comes, we have our legal team for legal counseling and also legal representation and file complaint against the perpetrators. And here is how clients come to CWCC. So majority of cases that come to CWCC, mainly they come by themselves as they know about CWCC, as CWCC has existed for more than 20 years. And some clients, around 40%, were referred by other stakeholders, like for example, duty bearer or our partner, NGO partners. And here is the case that come to CWCC from us and file complaint against the perpetrator, and also how the case that perpetrator are in jail. So we can see more case perpetrator are in jail is mainly the case of sexual abuse. While only 1 case of domestic violence, only 2 cases of domestic violence that perpetrator in jail because of the case is very severe case, it linked to the criminal case. And here is the risk that we provide in the shelter. So for example, we actually, women and girls can stay in our shelter for 6 to 9 months. And sometimes 12 months, it depends on the case. And also in the shelter, we provide a full basic medical care and also provide like group individual counseling for them to heal with their trauma. And we also have like daycare, like baby care for the children of the domestic violence case. And also we send the children to go to school nearby the shelter. We also have the literacy class, life skill training provided to the survivor of violence so that they can be confident and more self-esteem. In addition to that, we also have the vocational skill training, like sewing, cooking, barista, and coffee making, and also other kind of agricultural activity like pig raising or chicken raising, and also linked to training for the woman survivor in the shelter on small business management, and also linked to the financial literacy as well. And sometimes we also send the survivor who prefer to learn the skill outside the shelter, for example, like hairdressing or beauty salon, because we do not have this kind of skill in the shelters, but we facilitate the girls or women who stay in our shelter to attend this skill outside the shelter. It depends on the need and decision making of the survivor on their skill and also what they want to do. And here is the number of the case stay in our shelters. And here is the activities that we support the women who stay in our shelter for like 9 months, 6 months, or 9 months, or 1 year. It depends on the case. Then we conduct a community or family assessment along with the counseling to make sure that the place is safe for them and the community very supportive them. Then we reintegrate them back to the community, and then we provide a lifestyle support and grant business based on the skill that they learn. And also we develop the business plan together with them. And then we follow up the case up to like 1 year if there is no any problem and their business is going on well, and then we can close the case. And this is the number that we provide. We reintegrate them back to the community within 2023. And this is I share you the real case of a woman that who actually share the experience and then stood up against the domestic violence. So she actually get 4 types of violence, including economic, physical, emotional, and sexual. And regarding the economic violence, her husband actually never give money he earned to, her name is Kay, which is the 31 years old woman with the 2 girls, 2 children, 2 girls. And she actually never get any money from her husband, and her husband even like destroy material equipment in home, and also do gambling and alcohol, and also drug addicted. And she actually spent for 6 years with these situations, and she claimed that some money which she had saved for deliver baby, her husband stole it and enjoy with his friend in karaoke or KTV. And she actually is the fifth among the 6 siblings in the family of a farmer couple, and none of them complete high school, citing of the economic issues. So she described that it was the hardest thing in trying to be silent for 6 years. She tolerant domestic violence with her husband for about 6 years, and her husband did not even take care of the family at all. She said that it was enough. I was fed up and had to think of future of my children. Then she had become aware of CWCC services through a referral form from former client of CWCC, meaning that the survivor who used to seek service from CWCC informed her about the services of CWCC. And as the result, she received psychological and legal counseling before being admitted to the shelter, while the legal proceeding of her divorce case continue. So now she already complete her cases under the support from CWCC legal team, our lawyers, and she already divorced her husband. And during her stay in the shelter, she actually received support like psychological counseling, group counseling, vocational skill training, and also small business management, and as well as the financial literacy class. And when Kay was reintegrated back to the community, she actually found a job as a sales representative in one private company. And through the support she received, she now fully understands the slogan of CWCC, that helping women help themselves. And Kay is now continue with the channel of support by facilitating the two survivors in our shelter to get employed with her company. And interestingly, Kay actually initiated and mobilized the donation of the donation from her company for the water filter to support CWCC shelter during 16-day campaign. So today, Kay is promoted to be assistant to the director, and she has a big dream for both her daughters, including the for her desire that she wants her daughter to pursue higher education. So this is the stories of Kay, that she is very empowered herself through the support from CWCC, and now she's living happily with the job. She get a very good pay, and she also motivate herself to help other survivors from CWCC as well. And this is the picture of Kay, that she actually come with her colleague in the company to provide water filter to CWCC, and as well as the way that she sell the product to the community. So thank you. This is the real case of Kay that represents the empowerment of a woman survivor of economic violence. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Socheat, for your presentation about the case, and also like how you supported Kay, as well as like what she's working on right now and be able to provide for her children. And next we will have Linnea. She will share a case on human trafficking supported by the organization. So Linnea, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Luke. So as mentioned, I am interning for Center for Women and Development in Vietnam, and we operate 3 women's shelters throughout the country, and we call them peace house shelters. So I'll start talking a little bit about us. We are an organization directly subordinated under the Vietnam Women's Union, so that makes us a state agency. And we work for women's development in general, but we also provide business and hospitality services, and this is to finance our work with women's development. So when a victim comes to our peace house shelters, this is how the model looks like. We work from our victim needs, from the victim's needs always. So the recovery plan can vary from case to case, but it usually starts with a health checkup when they come to make sure if they need any like physical help. And our victims are often under a lot of psychological stress. So we also provide them with consultation. It can be either from social workers at our center or from a psychiatrist outside. And in terms of economic violence, this is a very important part, the legal aid, because a lot of the victims do not really know their rights. So we provide them with lawyer support, and they can also get help to get like to get their papers done properly, and to ensure safe divorces from their perpetrators. We also work with reintegration. So when they leave our peace house shelter, we still continue to have contact with them. And this is also a very important step for the recovery from economic violence. For example, we provide them with consultation on rights and laws, and give them vocational training or knowledge about how to start up a business so that they can be financially stable to live on their own and not go back to their perpetrators. And we also continuously have contact with them for about 24 months to make sure that everything goes according to plan. I will continue with sharing a story from our book that we published this December. It's about a woman whose story starts in 1991, or it's her trafficking story that starts then, because Vietnam was suffered from famine and skyrocketing prices. So when she was offered a high-paying job in Quang by a woman, she, of course, said yes, but this was not the case. And instead, she was taken to China and was sold to a man and his mother. And this relationship contained a lot of physical and psychological abuse, and to the extent that she says that her lowest point was when she was forced to give birth in a locked room without any medical assistance or emotional support. And she lived like this for over 20 years. And besides the domestic violence, she also suffered from economic violence. She had no economic means on her own, and she couldn't choose where to work on her own either, but it was the mother-in-law who chose when she was working and where she was working. So, for example, just a few weeks after she had been given birth, she had to go back to work and earn money for the household. But she managed to get out of this abusive relationship and returned to Vietnam after over 20 years. And when she arrived in Vietnam, she had lost all of her identification papers. So the Peace House Shelter helped her to communicate and cooperate with the local authorities to regain her identity and get the paperwork straight. And she was also given a monthly allowance that she, to this day, still has. But first thing first, she got provided with safe accommodation, healthcare, psychological support, legal support, and help with citizen rights. And she also expresses in the book that the community that she felt at this shelter was a huge part of her recovery too. Like, she found a lot of comfort with the other women at the shelter. And when she moved out, we continued to have contact with her to make sure that everything that she was doing well. And she was, for example, offered housing under the House of Compassion. And our partner, International Organization for Migration, also provided her with household equipment. So I will talk a little bit about why this case is a success. And I want to emphasize that, first of all, it was her personal strength that took her to Vietnam and took her out of her abusive relationship. But once she was in Vietnam, CWD had a lot of important steps for this case to be a success. And we believe that us being part of the Vietnam Women's Union is a huge part of it, because it makes every province in Vietnam has an office with the Vietnam Women's Union. So that makes it easy for us to cooperate and be close to the victim. But also our partnerships with, for example, International Organization for Migration and Pacific Links, as they can help us with the economic and the material parts. The Vietnam legislation, when it comes to human trafficking, we have the emergency support and the comprehensive support. And the emergency support everyone is eligible for. But to get the comprehensive support, you need to have a paper proving that you've been a victim of human trafficking. And to get this paper, you have to have a whole investigation and a trial. And it's not every victim who has the opportunity or possibility to have this. So Vietnam Women's Union and CWD have advocated for a change in this policy, and it is now under process. And CWD and our Peace House shelters provides comprehensive support to victims without paper to get the help where it is needed. So thank you for listening. Here are our contacts if you want to contact us.
Thank you, Linnea, for your sharing. And like Linnea had shared, that this case was in a book that they published last year. It's called Towards a Peaceful Horizon. So be sure to check it out on CWD's website. So now, as two of you have finished your presentation, I would like to ask you both a question. So maybe we'll have the screen ping to the two speakers. Okay, maybe I can start. So in your opinion, what aspects should be improved to enhance the services provided to survivors of economic violence? So Sochi, do you like to go first? Your mic is off.
Okay, I'm sorry. Actually, if we talk about what aspects that should be improved to enhance the service provided to the survivor of economic violence, we should think about the challenges that we face, so how we can address with that. So based on our experience working with the survivor of economic violence, we found that survivor of economic violence often face barrier to seeking support because they are financially depend on their husband, and this dependency can make it challenging for them to access services, as they may fear of losing financial stability if they take action against their husband or abuser. So it is crucial to address these issues by providing like comprehensive supports that including financial assistance, job training, and opportunity for survivor on economic empowerment. And second thing is more on the survivor who actually seek support face the pressure to drop their complaints and reconcile with their husband due to their economic dependence. So this is very, it can be a complex decision influenced by various factors, including cultural norm, fear, and also lack of alternative option. So it would be better that we could provide a survivor with comprehensive counseling, legal guidance, and also support networks to help them make informed decisions about their futures. And the third thing is more on the document, like necessary document. For example, based on our real context, mainly the absence of the crucial documents such as family book, marriage certificate, and birth certificate can present significant challenges for the legal proceeding. So because these documents are often required for the filing case, obtain the protection order, and also other support services. So the effort should be made to assist survivor obtaining this necessary document or finding alternative way for the validate this document. And the last one is more on the capacity building to the service provider, because we can find that limited capacity of service provider in providing services according to the standard and guideline can also hinder the effective support for the survivor. So important thing is we have to invest on the training capacity building program for the service providers to enhance their knowledge and skill in dealing with the violence, domestic violence, for example, economic violence. So this can be the training on basic counseling, referral process, and also other documents. And okay, I give you the last but not least is more on the funding challenge. So actually, donor prioritize often more on the prevention rather than ongoing support and respond to the survivor of violence against women. So they mainly more focus on the prevention. So while prevention is essential, but it is also equally crucial to ensure funding for the shelter, counseling service, and also legal aid and other support. So I think advocacy efforts should be made to raise awareness among donors about the critical need for the sustained funding on comprehensive support program for the survivors on economic violence and other type of violence as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sochi, for your very comprehensive response. Since you have so many years of experience, I'm sure that these are the things that you see while running your organizations. So thank you. Linnea, would you like to add from the Vietnam's perspective?
Yeah, I agree with Sochi that there's a lot of similarities to Vietnam, but we also experience that, at least at that peace house shelter, since we have a lot of domestic violence and trafficking cases, that they think they have that is like their main focus for the women. So they don't even think of the economic violence. They don't know what rights they have. For example, if they divorce, they do not know how would things be divided, or what money is mine and what is the husband's. So we also believe that like knowledge production should be like widened so that the women know their rights, so they have a greater chance to seek help. So yeah, that is what I have to add. Then I also agree to everything Socheat said.
Great, thank you. It's definitely important to add both your experiences into this conversation, and I'm sure it's all helpful for the participants today to learn about your experience and your sharing. So thank you both. And
Thank
next, I'm turning to our last two speakers of today's, and they are from the South Asia region, Kavindi Wijesekera and Anoja Makawita from Sri Lanka, and Suvecharana from Nepal. So Kavindi works as the Social Enterprise Project Manager, Shelter Affairs, and Creative Admin and Women in Need in Sri Lanka, and a startup initiative, Win for Her, an empowerment initiative, recycling A4 waste and throwing away banana barks to manufacture recycled paper and products, has become a key part in Women in Need's social enterprise. Win for Her has grown into 4 regional centers manufacturing products unique to its region. Kavindi has been able to tie her creativity and love for the cause to help rehabilitate and empower women and girls. And as a psychological counselor in Women in Need, Anoja works with women and children who have been subjected to domestic violence, sexual harassment, rape, and cyber violence victims, as well as the perpetrators. And as the head of counseling, Anoja oversees shelter client handling and shelter management of sexual and gender-based violence cases. And previously, Anoja has provided technical guidance and coordinated safe city project activities for USAID-funded project implemented by Women in Need. In addition to participating in several activism programs every year, Anoja also strengthened the capacities of non-governmental and community organizations to empower women and communities to respond to the sexual and gender-based violence issues actively. And Suvecha is the executive director at SATI, an NGO dedicated to preventing violence against women in Nepal. And since working at SATI, Suvecha has gained substantial experience on various spectrums of gender-based violence and gender equality, ranging from domestic violence, harmful traditional practices, child marriage, and dignified menstruation, youth peace, and security. And she's also greatly involved in expanding partnerships and collaborations with different networks and organizations, including coordinating the National Network Against Domestic Violence, the National Network on Beijing Review, Nepal, and the National Network of Women's Shelters. She's also actively engaged in the Men Engage Alliance and is a coordinator of the Men Engage Alliance Nepal. So Kavindi and Anoja will share a case that had supported in their shelters. So the floor is yours. You are muted, sorry.
Hi, everyone. Good evening, and I am Kavindi Wijesekera, and this is Anoja Makawita, my colleague. We are from Women in Need in Sri Lanka, and I am the social enterprise manager, and I handle the shelters and creative admin, and I'm a creative admin at Women in Need. Anoja is the head of counseling. Okay. So Women in Need is an organization dedicated to the elimination of sexual and gender-based violence for over 3 decades. We started as a drop-in center for women to come and speak about their issues, and we have now grown into an NGO that's a well-reputed organization working on sexual and gender-based violence that has gained credibility nationally and internationally. In terms of service provision, we provide victims of sexual and gender-based violence our services free of charge. So we give them psychological counseling, legal advice and court representation, emergency shelter services, and 24-hour hotline services. So WIN is the only organization in Sri Lanka which has emergency shelters exclusively dedicated to women and girls who are victims of sexual and gender-based violence. At present, we run 4 emergency shelters across the island, located in Colombo, which is the western province, Matara, which is the southern province, Batiklo, which is the eastern province, and Anuradhapura, which is the north central province. And we run 2 of these shelters in partnership with the Ministry of Women and Children's Affairs in Sri Lanka, and we hope to open a 5th one towards the end of the year in the Uva province. So this is where WIN is located around the country, and as you can see, we try to cover the whole area so that we have shelters and so we can give service provision to most people around the country. I think Anoja would like to talk more on our service provision and where we're located.
Actually, we are located in all 7 districts in Sri Lanka. So most of the centers we are having shelters. I would like to more focus on shelters because we are talking about economic violence in shelters in Sri Lanka actually. In Anuradhapura and Batiklo and mostly different diversities. I mean, Anuradhapura is a very big area and mostly they are working with the agriculture base, and the Batiklo is the eastern province, more focused on fisheries in the industry. Actually, then we go to the southern province, it is Matara, it's also agriculture and the fishery based industry is there. And Colombo shelter is in western province, mostly in commercial city in Sri Lanka. So those are the areas we have located our 4 shelters. We are having different type of multi-ethnicities and the multi-economic levels, people who are having so many crises, I mean domestic violence, sexual abuse and those issues. These are the areas we are working closely with the government as well. But when we talk about the economic crisis, there are so many issues they are raising on their day-to-day life. I would like to discuss in further.
So when a victim walks into Women in Need, this is the cycle that we send her through. So we register them and then they're given psychological counseling, legal advice, and court representation. And if her life is in danger, then we would give her temporary shelter in our emergency shelters. Then they become a part of the domestic violence support groups and then a part of our economic empowerment initiative. Anoja, would you like to talk about the safe cities?
Safe cities is, you know, that's like a globally recognized collaborative efforts like state, I mean, government partners, as well as civil society organization and the community. You know that children and women are not safe in their cities, like they can't navigate their safeties like men. So this is the first time in Sri Lanka, that's the initiative project that we have launched. But the main thing is the safe city initiatives we have built. We have set up women's watch group. They are the one who alert on what are the sexual harassment or safety issues faced by women. So at the same time, within the watch group team, we have to create another set of core groups that they are more focused on what is happening around them. At the same time, within the safe city area, all the infrastructure, building planning, and they more focus on the gender lens. So those are the initial activities we are created in Sri Lanka. So hopefully we try to way forward with the funding of USAID project activities. And also Women Watch Group, as I mentioned, it's a key component to convey our message to the community without their any I mean, that's a voluntary based activity. So community watch group, they will alert on their issues and we make them aware how to way forward our message, how to be safe, where you have to go, and those kind of knowledge sharing and skill sharing, as well as they will end of the day they will become a very good community leadership there.
So in terms of outreach and sensitization, we do awareness and sensitization for community and community-based organizations and government officials for women and girls, men and boys on GBV rights, equality, tech-facilitated gender-based violence and exploitation, and sexual and reproductive health. We also do awareness and sensitization for law enforcement agencies, especially the police and the Women and Children's Bureau of the police, the medical officers, judicial medical officers, community leaders and village heads, mediators, government officials, etc. In terms of research and advocacy, one of the most iconic researches that we have done is we've culminated in the publication of a publication called Voices of Survivors, which we have documented over 700 cases of stories on SGBV victims in Sri Lanka. And the most recent research that we concluded was tech-facilitated violence against women and girls in Sri Lanka, which we just concluded. We could share the file with you. At the moment, we are also doing a research on gender norms in the country. Just to quickly tell you the relation between the cycle of violence and economic abuse. Through the decades of work in the field of SGBV, WIN has learned and understood the crucial role economic abuse plays in the cycle of violence. It's a powerful tool used by the perpetrator to use power and control on a victim and a financial dependence on them. So our social enterprise, Win for Her, Dinavanna Air, or Avalak Kanavetri, is the brainchild of Women in Need, shaped to empower, rebuild, reintegrate a more confident woman or girl to society by women for women. As rehabilitation is a key factor in rebuilding a life subject to years of trauma and grief, it is important for us to rebuild a victim's confidence, self-worth, and trust. So we had to look for a way to educate them in an easily acquirable skill that was not too taxing mentally for them. And we started off by starting a recycled paper plant in the Colombo district, which we replicated in Matara right after the tsunami, as there were lots of women and children who were displaced and women who were single mothers. We will share a story on one of them in the next couple of slides. We have now branched into 4 districts. So we have the recycling project going on in the Colombo district and the Matara district, where the paper is produced, recycled A4 waste paper is produced in Matara, and the Palmyra project in Batiklo. And then we have a spices project in Jaffna that we are doing. And we have a stitching project again established in Matara and Colombo. So we're going to tell you about Rani. Rani had 4 children. Out of 4, 2 of her older children washed away and died in the tsunami catastrophe. Adding to her sadness, Rani was also a grave victim of sexual and domestic violence, constantly beaten by her husband, who is a fisherman. So Rani is from the southern part of Sri Lanka, where most of their livelihood is fishing. Rani was in hiding to avoid getting beaten by her husband most of the time, with her two children for over 8 years. Rani went to lodge a complaint over 20 times to the police, but they kept sending her back, saying to give her husband a chance as he is her spouse. On the last occasion, fed up with life, she made her way to the police station in Valigama, where she was referred to the Winds Police Counselling Desk at the police station. After understanding Rani's plight, she was severely bruised and injured, and she was sent to the Winds main office in the southern province in Matara, where she was counseled and given legal advice and put into the Matara shelter. Rani had to visit the hospital for treatment for her injuries, and her life was at risk as her husband used to follow her constantly during the hospital visits. As this was not a risk willing to be taken by Winds counselors and lawyers, Rani was then transferred to the Colombo shelter where she would feel safer and secure knowing her violent husband was not in the vicinity. Rani was counseled and supported for over a year by the Winds counselors, who were keen, kind, and understanding, and the lawyers at Win were eventually able to obtain a protection order against her husband after several hearings in court. Rani's older daughter, who was 12 years old, could not attend school because her life was also in danger. And as we moved her to Colombo, Win managed to help her find a home to continue her education. During her year at Win, Rani was also introduced and became a part of the domestic violence support groups, where she met many women like her with similar life stories and grievances, where they were empowered through various sessions of life skills, rights, women's health, etc. Rani was introduced to a skills project in Colombo, where she learned manufacturing recycled paper and recycled paper products. Weekly, she learned new things. She felt a difference in herself. She now had friends, women just like her, who had come to Win for help, and learned of their life stories, such as hers. We quote Rani here saying, "I felt more confident to bring out my ideas and thoughts as time went by. I sought their help from every step of the way as I learned that it was me who had to be strong. And from the wage I earned daily through my hard work, I felt proud of being able to give my daughter a few sweets and gifts whenever I got the chance to see her. I felt free. The me I had forgotten existed. She was stronger. My life had changed." After a year, Rani returned home, but Win continued to counsel and support not just her, but her husband, who promised not to beat her, but treat her well. Today, Rani's husband and Rani live together, and her husband supports the family. Now, Rani is self-employed and contributing to the family home through the skills she learned at Win's Empowerment Project, Win for Her, and Win's Shelter. Rani currently has a food bottling business, and she's doing quite well, right, Anoja? Yeah. So this is Rani's story. There are many more lives like Rani that we can save if we talk and create more awareness on SGBV and the importance and role in creating a safer and secure environment with generations to come. We just want to quickly talk about the law enforcement and legislation aspects on the story. Anoja?
So, in Sri Lanka, so according to the Domestic Violence Act, actually earlier we don't have that legislation, that means Domestic Violence Prevention Act in 2005. We were lucky to not only women, especially women in need, like any other NGOs, collaboratively join together and try to pass that bill. So in Rani's case, we were able to get that benefit through the Domestic Violence Prevention Act. So she got that protection order. And also, when we talk about the law enforcement and legal legislation in Sri Lanka related to domestic violence victims and women in Sri Lanka, so basically, the concept of all judicial law for marital property rights settlement due to lack of their law on settlement. Although married for years, spouse get almost nothing from the divorce. So this is still challenge for us too when you talk about the legal legislation. But we are happy to say that.
So we have one win from this year from International Women's Day. The president passed an empowerment bill that has not yet been gazetted yet. So we don't know much, but hopefully this will advocate for change in SGBV statistics and the price of economic violence in the country. We would love to speak a lot more, but I know that time is of the essence. So Duke, you can take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kavindi and Anoja, for your really detailed sharing of not just the case, but also the work that you do at Women in Need, as well as the legislations that's dealing in the case and what's going on right now. So really appreciate your sharing. Thank you. And now I would like to turn to our last speakers, Subecha Rana. And Subecha, the floor is yours.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you. And do you want to full screen your screen?
Yeah, but I'm...
And your camera as well.
Yeah, please hold on. My mouse is not working. Can you please?
Maybe I can do it from mine.
Just hold on. Oh no.
So as Subecha is experiencing some technical difficulties, I would like to say that we might run out of time today. So oh, she's here. Okay, great. But we might go over time. So please, all the participants, please bear with us. And I'm sure the panel discussion later will be really fruitful. So Subecha, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Subecha Rana, the Executive Director of SATI. And now I like to share my, thank you for this opportunity to share this case in the CSW parallel session. I would like to share with a small introduction of SATI. SATI is a non-governmental and non-profit organization committed to elimination of all forms of gender-based violence. SATI was established in 1992 with 8 women leaders to work against domestic violence. And we were also like, at that time, you can imagine like domestic violence was such a taboo subject. And this was met with a lot of criticism and backlash. But in spite of the challenges, SATI was also the first organization to establish women's shelter in Nepal. And it was in 1995, the first women's shelter for girls, women and girls was opened in 1995. But initially, like this was a fund that we received from the Global Fund for Women, and it was only for a 1-year duration. And you can imagine, like, a shelter is not a project-oriented activity. So after 1 year, we could not close down the shelter. So despite of all the challenges, we face these challenges even today. We are able to give continuity to our shelter programs throughout. And SATI also played a pivotal role in passing of domestic violence law in 2009. We worked with the ministry in drafting of this law. And at present, SATI has been running 4 women's shelters on its own and providing technical support to improve governance and management of 6 more shelters run by third parties, including local government. In fact, one of our shelters is fully supported by local government support, municipality support. But the problem is they support us in all the running cost of the shelter, but salary part is like, no one wants to take that part in their support. I would also like to share with you all key policy provision that helps in economic violence and gender equality in pay and social security is mandated by Article 18 of the Constitution. There is equal inheritance rights for all children, regardless of the gender, guaranteed by Article 18. There's special provision for education, health, employment, social security for indigent citizens and also marginalized communities. Their social security rights are extended to various vulnerable groups, including the marginalized communities. And there's also Labor Act of 2017 ensuring gender equality in pay for equivalent work. But in spite of all this constitution mandate and laws, the implementation process is not as expected. Sorry, can you again, like my mouse is giving me problem. Okay. I would like to share now Sathi's insight related to the survivors that we deal with. Among them, around 70% of HGB survivors coming to Sathi shelter face economic violence, because even domestic violence and economic violence are very closely related. Even the women from educated and well-off family face economic violence. Even for those women who earn their living, the most of their earning is spent on family affairs, leaving them no money for them to invest or save for future security. And women are barred from family decision of acquiring or selling the property. And they have no easy access to husband's property, nor their parental property, practically despite the recent law revision. Challenges that we face to serve survivors of economic violence are many survivors lack legal identity, such as marriage certificate, citizenship, or relationship proof, and recommendation letter from the local government to claim their stake in the husband's or parental property, and also to get job opportunities. A male partner keep and sell the property secretly without giving the wife's rightful share. Even the law has amended to ensure women's participation in property-related issue in the family. Practically, women are not considered significant stakeholders in the process, and legal system is so lackadaisical and lengthy that women's legal battle for getting property does not end for years. Death comes for them quickly, but not the court decision on property share. Lack of press facility to take care of dependent children of survivors to go for training or other economic opportunities is also a major challenge. To enhance the services to survivors of economic violence, we have been sensitizing women on their legal rights, not only in the shelter, but also in the community where we are working. We are strengthening collaboration with legal service providers to assist them in court cases related to property, because Sathi, we provide the shelter home, but for legal services, we depend on pro bono lawyers and other organizations providing these services. We are also advocating for policy changes to better protect survivors' rights and access to resources. And we are also providing education and skill enhancement opportunities for women survivors of economic violence by collaborating with private companies through their CSR programs. We provide seed money support and credit facility to few survivors, depending on the available resources. And we link survivors to entrepreneurship and vocational training opportunities. I would like now to share a few testimonial and case studies. My husband threatened to harm me if I tried to find a job. I felt trapped and powerless. I literally had to beg with him even for a small amount of money, which I need for my pocket expenses. Most of the GVV survivor women at Sathi shelter frequently share about their male partners refusing to provide financial support, including alimony and child support. Women are burdened with the financial responsibilities of raising children without adequate support. Many women in Sathi shelters share that their husband or male partner did not let them take up a job outside the home. Husbands suspect that wife might start affair with another person if they go outside the job, and this is a height of patriarchy. Many shared that they are kept out in decisions regarding family finances and property. Women are often relegated to unpaid household and caregiving roles, limiting their economic independence. This is one of the cases that I would like to share. Maya, a skilled seamstress, endured years of domestic abuse, including economic abuse from her husband. One day, in a fit of rage, her husband destroyed her sewing machine, saying that its sound disturbed his sleep. It left her unable to work. Her husband forbade Maya from seeking employment and controlled all financial decisions. After this separation, he refused to provide any support. She was left in a lurch without any support and supportive people. She sought refuge at Sathi's shelter, and at shelter, Maya received legal aid and referred to one of the vocational training center. There, she learned on cutting and designing the clothes, and with Sathi's small business startup support, she started her own sewing and tailoring shop. She now earns around 30,000 rupees per month and has been running her house and supporting her children on their upbringing and education all on her own. This is another case of Bina. She also was a victim of manipulation from her husband. Despite her aspiration to work, her husband's mistrust and accusation of infidelity kept her confined at home, isolating her from her independence. Even when she secured a job, his aggression led to her professional reputation being tarnished, forcing her to quit and become economically vulnerable again. Enduring verbal, emotional, and sexual abuse, Bina contemplated divorce, but faced heightened aggression and lacked support from her parents. Seeking refuge to the National Women's Commission, she found sanctuary at Sathi's shelter, where she received counseling, legal aid, and vocational training to build her life free from economic coercion and oppression. So we also coordinate with National Women Commission, and they have a helpline where once the case is registered, they are referred to Sathi's shelter. Now, Sonu's story is another one. She also faced neglect and abuse from her husband and sons, leading to a relentless cycle of suffering. Despite daring to demand a rightful share of family property, she faced further cruelty and violence. At 64 years old, she was found unconscious by a riverbank, abandoned by her sons after enduring severe beatings and accusations of infidelity. Seeking justice through legal aid and media attention only exacerbated the retaliation from her family, who even threatened her sister's family and obstructed legal proceedings. Despite filing cases and seeking refuge in shelters, Soni continues to suffer mental anguish and delay tactics from her husband's legal representatives, her health deteriorating as she waits for justice. Her plea for economic rights remain unanswered, overshadowed by the fear that she may not live long enough to receive what is rightfully hers. Thank you so much for this sharing.
Thank you, Socheat, for sharing 3 cases of the clients that you served in your shelter, as well as the service that you have included. We'll actually jump into the 2 speakers. Questions for Socheat and Kavindi. Okay, so actually we have one question that had raised by the audience for Nepal, for the Socheat, but I would like to ask both of you. So the question is basically, since both of you had mentioned legislations in your slides, and I'm sure you play an important role in supporting the legislations being passed. And I would like to know, like, how can the people and the victims in your country know what kind of legislation that they can use to protect themselves? And the second question is that, so the first is, how do you let people aware of the legislations? And the second is, how do you help them to get through the legislative process? So Kavindi, Anoja, do you like to go first?
Yes, actually, 2005, we got that legislation passed out, that the Domestic Violence Act. So before that, people don't know how. Actually, there are the notion that when you having a family dispute or family problem, when you go to the court, it will end up with the divorce. That was they are having a wrong notion. But nowadays, in like Women in Need and other organizations, especially in government bodies like Legal Aid Commission, Ministry of Women, all the people district-wise and divisional-wise, they will do more awareness creation. So then people know that if I file a domestic violence case, my family not will end up with the divorce. So there are so many provisions that then they can go to the court, then they can ask for a separation, but it's not a divorce. Then meanwhile, if they want to get settled down with their family, they can ask there's a procedure like court family counselors there. So whenever they want to resettle their family, they can go to the court and tell the family court that we are having a plan that we want to settle down our family. So we are happy to go to the psychiatric treatment or any other rehabilitation process. So there are so many provisions in between. So that's what people know. And giving so many awareness creations through the people know this is the way we have to go and find our that legal rights.
Kavindi, would you like to?
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Anoja spoke on behalf of me. That's okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Sumetra?
Yeah,
Would
so
you like to share
as I shared earlier also, like, you know, we do a lot of community trainings also. We work with survivors in the community and let them know about the new legislations and legal rights and everything. But at the same time, it is also very important, I feel, to reach out to the perpetrators. So, like, you know, we are also working with the police, because to reach perpetrators is very difficult. If you call them for a program, like, they won't come, like, you know, and calling them as perpetrators, they don't even feel they are perpetrators. So we are also doing a lot of programs with the police in the where there are women cells, to work with these perpetrators when they come for their hearing, to, like, you know, explain to them also about the legal implications of their actions. So this is how we are working in the community as well as with the perpetrators.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yes, do you like to add?
Can we just add to that? Yes, please.
Yes, as mentioned, that Rana, that is the same similar procedures. Even without their police support, we can't reach out that kind of targets. So we have to closely work with the community awareness, police, any other organization who are giving legal support. So all the parties, we have to get together and find out that solution. I'm really
I think we experienced a lag from Sri Lanka, from Kavindi and Anoja. So Sumetra, can you hear me right now?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
And okay, so I think we will jump into the next session with the panel discussion with all the speakers, since we are kind of running out of time. And we'll wait for Kavindi and Anoja to come back at the same time. So we also see questions from the audience. Okay, so I'll jump into reading the questions right now. So to all the speakers today, apart from the economic support, what would help these NGOs to do more while you are working? While you are working? So maybe the questions can be framing as besides giving out loans or giving out money directly to the survivor, what kind of other things that you think can the NGO and the shelters do to combat the economic violence? So maybe we can start with Liya.
All right. Actually, from our experience in Lanxing shelter, aside from providing some economic connections to the women, we can also see that women has been suffered a lot from psychological abuse, and they are really hugely impacted by the violence. So what we are really looking to do is to increase their confidence so that they can take care of their own needs. So in this aspect, through the support from the staff of the shelter, as well as some feedback emotionally, this can really enhance their confidence. So in my opinion, aside from economic support, how can help women regain their self-awareness? How can they get over control of their life? It is also really important.
Thank you, Liya, for your sharing. Chisato-san, would you like to follow? Chisato-san, do you hear me? Do you want to add on to that?
Oh yeah. Each NGO shelters in Japan helps as an emergency shelter or legal support and so on. And we are a national network, so we are providing policy recommendation or we had the opportunity to share each supporter's experience and information. We have a database, and we hold a national conference and so on.
Okay, thank you. And actually, we have another questions from the audience, and maybe we can ask this one for Socheat. And is that there are some legislations being already in place, like all the speakers had mentioned, but why doesn't it still protect the victim? What's lacking that you see in your experience? Right, Sochi, do you like to respond to that?
Hello. Hello, do you hear me, guys?
Yes, yes.
So actually, this question, our key speaker from Nepal already answered that as well in terms of law. Actually, law in place, but why does it not protect the woman? So this thing is more on the capacity of the law enforcement and also like police and the judges, and also how they understand about the laws, that how it implement, how it's enforced and implements in the real practice. This is one thing. So the terms is in terms of the capacity buildings of the duty bearer and also supervisor that respond to the protections of a woman's survivor of economic violence, and as well as and how to work with the perpetrator to be accountable for the accountable for their action against their partner. So this is what my answer to the question.
Okay, thank you. And for last three speakers, I have a question for you. So based on the experience that you do in your work, how can financial institutions and employers contribute to the efforts to combat economic violence and support survivors? So maybe Linnea, can you go first?
Well, to spread awareness, I think that the civil society holds like a tremendous amount of power. Of course, the government has the final power, but if I educate myself in recognizing the economic violence, and if I educate myself, we got a question of how can I get involved, that will contribute a lot. So for an enterprise to, for example, because for the vocational training that we give to the women, we also, that is like a collaboration with, it can be with like a hairdresser that they volunteer to accept a certain amount of women to their salon and educate them so that they can work on their own, so that they have so they will get their own income, for example. So I think that there's a lot of things that you can do as a business or an individual that is not just money itself.
Thank you. Thank you. And actually, I want to go to Suvecha first. I want to ask if there's any, so like Linnea had mentioned in Vietnam, like some of their social enterprise that they run as CWD. Is there any friendly business or financial institutions in Nepal that you can work with, or how do you think they can support?
So I think it's very important for us, everyone, to remember, like, women often have the responsibility of caring for their children, and they are accompanied with children. There are a lot of big companies now, through their CSR programs, they are providing employment opportunities, training programs, but they are also, like, not very liberal in terms of their thinking. They are paying for the cost of the training, but not for the, like, child rearing process, child care facility process and all. So it's very important to remember, and we are like advocating this with the CSR initiatives also, to place like a woman and also her children in a child care facilities is very important, I think.
Thank you. And last but not least, I would like to know like your experience for Kavindi and Anoja, from your experience. And your mic is last.
In Sri Lanka, it's a little bit more different because they will if it's a single mother, they might actually check her credit worthiness, and they might not be willing to give her a loan even to start on her business. Also, in terms of, like the other speakers said, in terms of corporates or financial institutions which are government owned or private, they are not necessarily willing to fund initiatives such as SGBV victims and to help them to improve the economy, but they more or less look down upon them. So in that sense, we need to improve our policies and requirements and the way we look at SGBV victims as a whole, and that should be done through awareness and sensitization. Anoja, would you like to add?
Yes, exactly. That the holistic approach we have to, because as we know that gender discrimination and gender norms mostly work with that economic violence. If I want to start a job, so most of the time in the gender lens, they are asking, are you the household? So mostly that the patriarchal ideas and those things prevent them to go forward. So we have to have that kind of awareness, and we have to focus on that patriarchal ideas, as well as that the basic empowerment. I mean, economically in Sri Lanka now already know about that the crisis situation, as we are in behind the line at the moment. So people they have that courage, and that we are providing so much of counseling and the legal support and all, but initial support we need that financial side. When we turn into the financial side, we are unable to find the financial source. Even that the NGO feel that the funders are not giving that much of money to start up their businesses. So that's what we have to think about, and we have to have a holistic approach to build up their life to get rid of economic violence, I think.
As a whole in Sri Lanka, we don't have a regularized proper system to support victims of sexual and gender-based violence, which is why Women in Need is one of the leading NGOs that kind of provides that holistic support that a victim would need. But then in terms of reallocation, we don't have enough funding to do that, and that has become a huge need, especially after the economic crisis in Sri Lanka that we have seen with the victims who walk into WIN.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing the experience in Sri Lanka. And now I would like to ask the last questions of today's discussion. And it's the audience is asking about money lending. So this one is for Chisato-san. So she wants to know how do you ensure the safety for women accessing the support? And when lending money, how can you ensure the victim is not giving it to the perpetrator? And how do you monitor women living in shelters and back to the community?
Okay, the support staff knows the case so well that it rarely happens that she gives the money to the perpetrator or she goes to the community again. However, there are cases where she fails to repay back the money and goes to bankrupt. It sometimes happens. That's all.
And what would you do? What would the All Japan Women's Shelter Network do if the person was bankrupt and couldn't repay the money? And how do you maybe continue to provide support to her?
Yeah, if we can contact with her, but sometimes we can't contact her, then we give up that money and donate, collect donation instead of.
I see. So thank you. And I think from the discussions that I hear and all the sharings from all the speakers today, I think one thing that really strikes me and really pops up to me is that awareness campaign that we all need to do as NGO to combat the economic violence and to share the impact of economic violence to the larger society. Since sometimes even though the economic violence is really impactful for the victims, but most people still don't really see it, even if they are the victims themselves. Maybe they're not experiencing as a violence that they're experiencing. So I think it's really amazing to have all the speakers. We have 7 speakers from 6 countries and all over Asia to share your own experiences working in different parts of Asia, and really provides a full picture of how the NGOs in Asia can support survivors of economic violence. So really thank you for sharing and speaking with us today. But before we go, I think it's such a rare opportunity to us to have all the speakers here. So I would like to have a group photo with all the speakers and some of the staffs working right now. So if you can turn on your camera. Okay, great. So I think we have a camera person who can take the screenshot. Okay, so I'm on count. So 3, 2, 1, cheese. Yay. Okay. Do we get it? Okay. Okay, maybe one more. I think we have a different setup of screen right now. So one more photo. 1, 2, 3. Yay. Okay, perfect. We got it. Okay, so before we end today, and thank you again to all the speakers today. And before we go, there are a few important things to mention still. So the first is to fill out a survey form, a satisfaction survey on the left QR code here and on the screen. So it's good for us to let us know how we're doing today. And you can also share your comments and questions in the survey form. And after you fill out the survey form, we will send the slides to you. So be sure to fill out the survey. And the next, the right QR code is if you wish to join the NWS network, you can scan the QR code and we will contact you after you finish the QR code. And I believe the link is also pasted into the chat. Okay, so I'll give you 2 more seconds to scan the QR code. Okay. The last thing today is that the Garner Hall Foundation and the Asian Girls Campaign is also hosting another NGOCSW68 Parallel Event in 2.5 hours. And it will be an engaging panel of Asian girls dedicated to career leadership and entrepreneurship. And along with NGOs focusing on empowering girls in their career journeys. And you can access the registration form on the QR code here, but it's also pasted in the chat box. So please join us as we explore the profound impact of empowering Asian girls in their careers and shaping a better future for them. So thank you all today for participating, and we hope it's a rewarding experience for the speakers and the participants and all the listeners today. And we look forward to seeing you in the future. So thank you so much and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Bye.